Hello and welcome to Simulation Mode Age of Empires 4, right here on the Crown Channel. I'm Jasmine, that bronze girl Bhullar, your host for today, and it is my honor and my pleasure to bring you in on this party because today we're playing Age of Empires 4. Not on your computer though, we're playing in real life because that's what we do here on Simulation Mode. We've gathered some great combatants who are complete masters of their craft to duke it out here in the simulation arena where we will determine which empire has it to take it home the prize. There is a trophy. I'm not allowed to leak it early, but I did get a sneak peek. Our fighters don't even know what they're fighting for yet, and neither do you. But don't worry, stay tuned because we've got a great show planned for you. We've been working hard, and I can't wait for you to get in the ring with us because unlike Age of Empires 4, you're not going to be getting a bird's eye view of the combat, but you're going to be getting in the ring, down and dirty with us today. Now, our fighters are masters of movesets from all of the empires they're representing in the game. And they're masters of over a dozen weapons. Let me tell you, they're going to need it because all the stuff behind me, they're going to be using it in the ring today. And guess what? You get to help them choose what they're going to be using. Yes, chat, you're my co-host for today. Also, thank you so much for being here because if I threw this party and nobody came, that would be really, really awkward for me. Now, I'm a huge fan of Age of Empires. I started playing it when I was 9. I remember playing it on my dad's Fujitsu laptop. It was kind of an austere experience, but this is a really full circle moment for me. So I'm just so happy to be here and I'm so happy to take you on this adventure with me. Age of Empires 4 has 8 different empires you can choose from. The graphics are amazing. The battles are stunning. I was able to talk with the devs before I came here today. And speaking with them, the first thing that struck me was how much care and attention they've paid to trying to accurately depict these moments from history. Not just the battles, not just the weapons, not just the armor, but cultural things too. Things like language. What language would have been spoken in certain regions at which period of time? And it shows. I mean, playing the Delhi Sultanate in the game has been really cool. It's something that you hear about in history books. I went to school in India, and actually getting to play and bring elephants onto the battlefield has been fantastic. And we're gonna take that same care and respect to authenticity and bear that torch forward into the ring. That's what we're doing here today on Simulation Mode. But if I'm gonna do this right, I'm gonna need an expert. And thankfully, I've found one. Now, not only has she published not 1, not 2, but 4 different books on medieval history, but she's also the creator of the Medieval Podcast, and she's a TEDx speaker. Danièle Cybulskie, my wonderful friend, please come on down. You gotta help me do this thing right. I'm so happy to have you here. Nerds meeting nerds, nerds helping nerds. It's always the greatest.
I know.
For our wonderful chat, why don't you break down who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm a medievalist, so this is my full-time job, bringing history to the people, and I love it so much. So I got interested in history from fiction, like so many of us, I think. So my whole job has been, for the last little while, to bring people to history in a friendly way, in a fun way, because I think most of us come to history through fiction, through novels or movies or video games. And so my job has been to bridge that gap between what looks like dull and dry history and making it fun so that people who are into fiction get into history in just as exciting a way.
I mean, it works. Playing Age of Empires 2 and 3 cultivated this desire to learn more about cultures like the Moors, Saladin. You know, it was really cool to figure out who these people were, because prior to that, you know, I was kind of falling asleep in history class. They were talking about a really messed up version of Columbus that was like not real. I'm sure you have opinions on that too.
Don't get me started on Columbus.
I know, sorry. My producers are informing me that we should not get started on Columbus because we have much better things to talk about here today. He wasn't a great guy to the chat, just so you know. Look it up, Google it. But that's why we need people like Danièle to kind of bring us into the game. Bridging pop culture and history is your specialty.
It is, yeah, and so that's why I'm so excited to be here. I mean, there are so many people who have been brought to history through Age of Empires, and to see it do a Middle Ages is just so exciting to me. And we not only have the European fighting style that we see like so often in video games, but Age of Empires 4 is giving us a much bigger.
Woo! Sorry, I got kind of hyped.
So excited, and we're gonna see that right here too.
Delhi Sultanate, yes!
More than
I'm done. That's the last one, I promise.
We want to see more than one continent. I think that people who are gamers and people who are interested in history, they want to see a bigger picture than that general, European history that we usually see. And so we're bringing it today.
And you know what, chat? You can get a chance to win a copy of Age of Empires for yourself. Now, I got it through Xbox Game Pass, but we're doing tons of giveaways in the channel, so make sure you are tuned in. Join us at twitch.tv/crown. We're gonna have a bunch of different commands you can use, and if you can accurately foretell which empire is going to win, you'll be entered into a giveaway to win a code of the game for yourself so you can get in on the action.
It's awesome.
It's absolutely amazing. I feel like we should duel sometime. I've been playing the game on hard mode, because I do this thing on my stream where I play games on hard because I have to flex and...
That is something I never do, so I'm happy that you're doing it. I'm not going to play anything.
I gotta do it. I got a chip on my shoulder. I have something to prove. I'm a real gamer girl. Just kidding. That was a bad joke. But I've been playing through, and one of the really cool things they've done with this game is including these really cool behind-the-scenes movies.
Yeah, there's so many of them. They're so cool, and they involve real historians. They involve a real castle that's being built right now, and they talk you through such interesting history, and you get to watch these and play the game. It's the best of both worlds. I love it.
You know, one of the videos we watched on my stream was talking about the making of castles.
Yeah.
And it honestly blows my mind how much work went into them and how many King Harold built.
Yeah.
Was that guy okay? Did he have something to prove?
Oh, there's always something to prove in the Middle Ages,
Sure.
right? And so you were talking about William the Conqueror with me earlier, and he is a guy that built so many castles, and you actually get to see some castle building in the videos in between the gameplay, and it's so cool. Everyone should check it out.
And you know, we're gonna get to see people prove something in the ring here today, because we have 4 different empires duking it out. There are 8 you can play in the game, but we've got combatants from 4 of them here today. And first up, we have a different William Marshall, representing the English Empire. Now we have Jay Puerta bringing this wonderful character to life. Danielle, what can you tell us about William Marshall?
Well, William Marshall is a perfect person to have in the ring today, because even in his own time, he was thought of as the greatest knight there ever was. People still today think of him as the greatest knight there ever was. So when it comes to that classic English style of fighting, William Marshall is your guy. He served under 4 kings. He lived to over 70 years old, which tells you what kind of a combatant he was. He was an amazing knight in his own right, and so it's going to be so cool to see Jay here in the ring being William Marshall.
I can't wait to see it. When you set that stage of being the greatest knight, that ever existed, I can only imagine the way he's going to bring the hammer down in the ring today.
Oh yeah, so much skill, so much effort. It's going to be an amazing thing to see.
But our next contender is just as formidable, representing the French Empire. We have Kelsey Gentry portraying Jeanne d'Arc. Now, the only thing I know about Joan of Arc is from that Mila Jovovich movie from back in the day. Is it true that she was just a peasant that one day was like, screw this, I'm gonna do it myself, like Thanos?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know if she would call herself Thanos, but she was pretty powerful girl.
I mean, I call her Thanos. Thanos is a pretty cool dude. Sorry, comic book nerd jumping out. Continue, Danielle.
So Joan was absolutely, she's a peasant girl from the countryside, and one day, she's a teenager, started to have these voices in her head. They were the voices of angels, and those angels told her job was to lead the French army to kick the English out of France. They were occupying France at that time.
Hear, hear, sister.
During the 100 Years' War. So Jeanne d'Arc, or Joan of Arc, she actually won a whole lot of battles for France. She was eventually caught by the Burgundians and handed over to the English, who burned her at the stake as a heretic. So it's so great to have Jeanne d'Arc back here in the ring. She's got a lot to prove, and I can't wait to see her.
I hope Kelsey gets heretic as heck up in here. Personally, I almost cursed. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I'm just really excited. When you start talking about kicking the English out of anywhere, this girl gets on board.
Oh, she does. She's amazing. And Kelsey is just she's gonna kill it out here.
Now, we just don't have European representation. Of course, we've got people from out east as well portraying the Rus Empire. We have Jake Schultz, who's going to be bringing to life a Rus man-at-arms. Now, this is one of the staple units for your army in the game. I think you unlock them in like the feudal era. They're super useful to have. What can we expect a combatant like Jake with the man-at-arm sort of setup to bring into the ring?
What is so cool about having the Rus here is that they have a style that's unlike anyone else's. So their ancestry comes from Scandinavia, from Viking ancestors. And so they have learned how to fight in a Western style. And they've also learned how to fight in an Eastern style because one of their major enemies over the Middle Ages was the Mongol Empire. So when we have a Rus fighter, we have somebody who can use Western style arms and someone who can use Eastern style arms. So this is something that you rarely ever see. So it's great to see Jake here representing the Rus.
And you know what? Jake's gonna need it because his opponent is from the East. Our last combatant will be presenting the Chinese Empire. We have Helena Harlow bringing to life an elite palace guard.
That's right, and you can see it's so beautiful, and that's one of the things that you can see in the game too. What the Chinese bring is style as well as fierceness, and we see that in the form of Helena here. And so what's so cool about the Chinese is they have such a long history, and all of their arms are very exciting to see being used. And again, what's interesting is because they also fought the Mongols, we can see some similarities.
I feel like the Mongols fought a lot of people.
They sure did.
Yeah, Genghis Khan was kind of always, maybe we should call him Thanos.
Yeah, I think he would get on board with that in a heartbeat.
He was probably like, that guy had a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, I think Genghis would be totally on board with that. But so the Chinese have also learned from fighting Mongol cavalry. So we'll see similar weapons to the type that we'll see from the Rus as well. So it's so awesome to see these two combatants fight it out here.
I'm so excited to see them go blow for blow in the ring. Our first matchup is going to be between the English Empire and the French Empire. Do you have a favorite here?
Yeah, I mean, I have been a fan of Jeanne d'Arc since I was a kid, so I am totally going to cheer for her. I hope that she has a lot to prove here, and I hope she proves it against William Marshall. As much as I like Marshall, I'm going to go for Jeanne d'Arc.
You know, you'll never hear me say this again as an Indian woman, but I'm actually going for the English Empire here. Go English Empire! Like, I feel like Jay's stature, I got to see him backstage and the sheer, like, sort of force he's bringing into the ring. Like, I can't wait for y'all to meet him, chat.
He's fierce.
He's fierce, and I feel like he might have, I think he has what it takes to go to round 3.
I mean, he has what it takes. But I mean, Jeanne has the fire, and Kelsey has the fire, so it's going to be a tough fight.
Yeah, Kelsey is a fierce warrior. We're going to meet them a little bit later on. But, I mean, if we're going to do this right, we already have the expert. We got the hostess with the mostest. Clearly, we need a referee.
Well, we need a referee.
Yeah, we need a referee. I mean, like, we're always, as soon as we got here, we were just like flinging these around right before the cameras rolled. And we were told somebody has to come in and arbitrate. But unlike us, we have an actual combat expert to come in to serve as our master of arms. He's absolutely dripping with enthusiasm. Come on down, Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hey.
How's it going?
Doing well.
Thank you so much for being our referee today.
My pleasure. I've been a fan of the Age of Empires my entire life. It was the first game came out the year I was born. The only reason I passed middle school history is playing Age of Empires 2. So
I feel like that's like a common thread here.
It's really
very much
so true.
I love it. So how are you going to be scoring this? Like, Danielle was explaining to me that in a real fight, you know who wins because
yeah, the other guy's dead.
very cut and dry.
That's not gonna happen.
This guy. But we're obviously not going to do that here today. So what system are we using to ensure a fair fight? Is it no holds barred? Is it?
Not quite. We are going to adapt the rule sets that they're actually using around the world in different armored combat sports leagues, which include a lot of things, including no thrusting attacks. You know, we want to make sure that we're not getting anything that's going to catch, slide up under any of our plates of armor, not going to damage our face, anything like that. We're going to avoid hits to the back, so anything from this side forward is fair game. Also, our target area is from the top of the head to about mid-thigh, then elbow, on up. Anything in there is going to count as a clean hit and will get you 1 point. At the end of our rounds of combat, whoever has the most points will be considered the winner.
Fantastic. Now, what happens if someone falls over or gets disarmed? Is that like where you go in for the killing blow, the bronze special, or?
Usually, yeah. No, absolutely. And these are fierce competitors. But we're going to go ahead and stop the fight if that does happen. Let them go ahead, get back up, reset, recollect those weapons, and then we'll go ahead and resume. Of course, if at any point we do have an armor failure or a weapon failure, we're just going to go ahead and swap in a new one and get the action keep going.
How are you going to pull them apart? Are you going to just like dive in the middle?
I hope not. I have a very special tool that I use. It is quite historically accurate.
He's got a beat.
Thank you, Alex, my sergeant at arms. This here is my martial flag. I will use this to referee the matches. If I do want the fighters to stop fighting for if it's the end of the round,
You bonk them on the head repeatedly.
Look, if they don't pay attention, I might, but usually I do this very technical move. Stay with me here. I shove it right between their faces. I actually know that as soon as they see that big red flag and blocks out all their vision, they know, go ahead, stop fighting. Let's make sure let's untangle if we're all tangled up, because we're all here to be friends, stay safe, it's all good.
I too enjoy telling people to shove it.
Red flags are your thing.
Yeah. I throw up a lot of them. As red as your lipstick today, Danielle.
You know what? If I need a backup, can I count on you?
Yes.
Absolutely, all right.
Which you might, because I see that you're not wearing any armor. Are you going to be wearing some while you're refereeing?
Actually, no. I'm gonna wear a gauntlet on my on my hand that is more forward, so that way if I do catch something, it is protected. But I will actually not be armored because the fighters are actually trained and conditioned that if they see armor, they're gonna swing at it. So I'm gonna go ahead and opt for the not armor. You know, got some padded armor here, so no dexterity penalties or anything like that. So I'm gonna say basically stay loose, stay around them, stay safe, use this stick as needed.
Ryan always wearing the fall's newest fashions from Nordstrom Rack.
Thank you. It's more of a medieval rack, but
It's better than the torture rack.
Indeed, it is. Also, this is definitely dry clean only, I assume.
Well, let's hope we don't get any blood on it today. I'm assuming you've taken some measures with the weapons to make sure that they're a little bit safer for the use of the ring.
Absolutely, absolutely. All our weapons were actually made for us, especially for this event by Tony Swadden, Master Blacksmith, Sword in the Stone. They are made out of aircraft aluminum, so it's the same stuff inside of an airplane wing. It's very strong, very light, very safe for our purposes. Also in-game, you know, we love bill hooks, we love the Volge, halberds, things like that. They have a lot of hooks, they're very dangerous, they're very specifically designed to rend flesh from bone.
Right.
We don't want that today, not what we're looking for. So we've gone ahead, rounded those edges down, gotten rid of those hooked devices, but this is basically as close as you can get to those historical weapons and still be allowed to hit each other with.
Now, Danielle, we got to swing some of these around. They're quite a bit lighter than you would expect.
Yes.
How heavy would you expect an actual sword that a knight used in battle to be?
Well, swords were not as heavy as people think they were, but I mean, you're holding it for a very long time. So even a sword that's only 3 pounds is gonna feel really heavy after you're using it for a while. So our fighters are really happy to be using this aluminum. It's much lighter than what they usually use.
Now,
They are using, though, the same armor that they normally wear in combat. So although they're saving weight on the weapons, their armor kits are the same steel, titanium, full plate. All the little nooks and crannies are covered up and armored. So that way they're going to be 100% safe, which means they're just going to go that much harder.
Yes.
I love to hear it. I know you were saying they're enjoying swinging them around because they go really fast. These are my types of combatants.
Oh yeah, they're a special breed, and I'm very excited for you all to meet them.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Warhammer fan, so like, you know, fast is better. Red means fast. Go orcs. Now, I also hear a bit of a zombie expert.
Yeah.
So I have to ask while I have you here, which weapon would both of you choose to survive a zombie apocalypse out of these?
Oh, for me to survive the zombie apocalypse, I'm definitely gonna go with a poleaxe.
Fair.
It gives you a lot of distance. You can keep those zombies away from you. And we all know that the only way to kill a zombie is to cut their heads off. That's something everybody knows, right? So an axe has that nice blade you can use at a distance and cut those zombies' heads right off.
I love the versatility of the poleaxe. I'm a big fan of halberds. I think specifically in this zombie apocalypse, this is, like we've said, very nice. Blood would definitely stain it. I'm going to use that polearm, that French Volge over there, to keep the distance, you know, keep them at bay. I've already been practicing the martial stick here.
Fair enough. You know, having watched 28 Days Later and kind of accruing a lot of kills with it in Call of Duty, kind of ironically, I feel like I would go with the shield.
Really?
Yeah, and just be able to like push it out. Because I guess like I always feel like if you chop them off, what if some blood gets in your eyes or nose and you get infected?
Very good point.
That's how I lost my last job. You know, the last simulation mode was Left 4 Dead, and
I thought they were kidding when they told me about that.
you know, the nightmares of that still haunt me to this day. It's okay though. We're gonna make it through this one because we have Brian here. We didn't have you on the last one.
That's fair. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to, you know, have these amazing fighters that we've gathered from different armored combat leagues. We have these amazing weapons. I've got my sergeant at arms. We're going to be flying in weapons. It's going to be a great day. I am so excited to be here for Age of
I am
Empires
excited
4.
to be here too. I'm super excited to see the French Empire face off against the English Empire right after this.
It's school time! Every this. Let the clicking begin.
I am your host, T-Pain.
That was fantastic.
How would it get better than this? It's so cool. Y'all eat crickets and all kind of wild stuff.
Pass me a towel.
This is outstanding. It's thrilling. Let's go.
That's what we do. Oh, I don't have a gun. Bro, I'm running on Mike Tyson on these zombies.
This is the first time this has ever been done.
And get this, no calories.
This is gonna be amazing.
5 teams will compete over the next 3 days to determine who is the greatest player in the known universe.
This season, it'll be even higher stakes with 4 competitors battling it out for this $50,000 top prize.
This is a show that highlights some spectacular content here on Twitch.
Ultimately, you are going to help decide the winners of this year's Crown Cup.
WW Fest is about to begin. Are you ready?
Oh, that sounds good.
I'll be coming up hot for a minute.
Welcome back to Simulation Mode, Age of Empires 4, right here on the Crown Channel. We gave you an overview of which iconic characters we're going to be seeing battle in the arena today. Danielle, thank you so much for giving us some historical context for who these figures were. Are you excited to meet them?
Oh, totally. This is my jam. I'm so excited to meet them.
I have to say, we've chatted with these people backstage. They're so nice. They're really great athletes, tons of great sportsmanship. But when you see them fully armored up, you're going to lose your mind. It's so insane.
I know, you wouldn't think people this nice could be this fierce, but wait until you see them in action.
Now, our first contender is representing the English Empire. It is my honor to welcome to the arena Jay, who's going to be bringing to life William Marshall. Hey, Jay! Jay! How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel great. I'm really glad to be here.
Been waiting for this moment?
Oh, absolutely.
You look absolutely stunning. What are those? Are those, I'm assuming, the newest collection from Alexander McQueen?
There you go. What do you think? You like it?
Look at you twirling around like a ballerina. How heavy is this?
This particular kit can be between 60 and 70 pounds, roughly, when you account for the helm as well.
60 to 70 pounds sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, especially if you're going to be wearing it for a long time. But what people don't really recognize is that 60 to 70 pounds is really standard for soldiers anywhere from the Roman Empire to the modern time. So while it's a lot, it's not unmanageable for someone who's a fighter.
Now, how long would it take to put something like this on?
You know, this particular suit's a little easier to put on. Somewhere between 15 minutes max, I can put this on.
Can you put it on yourself, or do you require assistance?
It helps. It helps to have a squire. It'll just take longer, but I can still do it by myself. So that's the good thing about this one.
Is it required for people in your sport to be a squire before they become a combatant, or can you skip that step?
You know, it's a good point. When you get started, squiring is actually an integral part of it because it teaches you all the ins and outs of the suits of armor, how to put it on. There's different ways to do it. It's a great learning step for those that want to get involved, and that's how they help us out when we do our practices. They get involved, they help suit people up, and then in turn someone else eventually will come in and help suit them up and so forth. So it's a great learning tool. So squiring is important in our sport.
And it was important in the Middle Ages too. I mean, the squires are the people who became the knights. So it's on-the-job training that they're doing when they're suiting up their knights and getting them ready, anticipating what they need. So squires are super important.
Now, how do you feel about bringing to life this character of William Marshall that's in the game?
Man, that for me, William Marshall is like, you know, that's the epitome of any of us that want to live in this world and live up to that standard. He is the standard in many ways. Under 4 kings, you know, the story of him as a child, you know, being held for ransom. I mean, his life started off with a bang, you know, so.
It almost started off with a bang. So what happened, according to legend, is that William's father was holding out against the king, King Stephen, and King Stephen had a young William who was only about 5 years old, captive, and he actually put him in a siege engine, apparently. And King Stephen said, if you don't surrender this castle, I'm going to shoot your 5-year-old at the walls. So he almost started his career with a bang, but he didn't quite. His dad said, that's okay, I can make more sons, I can make better sons. But King Stephen decided to spare William, and here he is today in the form of Jay.
I actually really love that he called the bluff, where he was like, if you don't surrender, I'm gonna fire your kid through a trebuchet. And this dude was like, bet, do it. I'd like to see that. I kind of admire that energy. Now, Jay, you're playing the greatest knight of all time, but I have heard you're a knight yourself.
Absolutely. Again, when it comes to our sport in the United States, for those of us that go through the tournaments and earn our spot on the U.S. team, we go overseas and we fight in a castle in some beautiful country. If you do all those steps and you fight for your country overseas, you do qualify to be knighted in our sport. And I had the honor to be knighted in Portugal in 2016. It was just a beautiful experience. And so, yeah, I try to help grow the sport in our community here in LA to make sure more people get that chance.
And you got a tattoo to commemorate that. Did that hurt more than the actual combat?
Actually, where I got it done, yeah, it did hurt a lot, but it was worth it. It was worth it.
Is Portugal where you said you had to fight on the cobblestones?
That's right. That castle, Montemoro Velho in Portugal, beautiful cobblestones, but you had to climb all the way up with your gear, and it was definitely a learning experience with armor and the shoes we had.
Speaking of armor, let's get a look at the side-by-side of what you're wearing today, as well as what your character is wearing in the game. Danielle, walk us through this. I see there's some differences here.
Yeah, there's a major difference, which you're going to see when Jay starts to fight, and that is that William Marshall in the game is wearing a flat-topped helmet, which we tend to call a bucket helmet because it looks like there's a bucket on his head. Now, the thing about that is that it's got a flat top, which means that if you get struck on the top of your head, you're going to feel that, really feel it. So Jay is wiser than William Marshall in some ways. He's going to be wearing a hat that has a helmet, that has sloped sides to it, is more conical, and so that means that if he gets hit over the top of his head, that blow is going to slide right off, which is what you want for all your armor. You'll see that Jay's armor allows all sorts of hits to just slide right off along that curved surface.
Fantastic. I mean, even despite having the curved surface, the helmet looks utterly stunning. I've seen you wear it. It does strike a very imposing figure. We have your squire holding it here in the ring. What is the visibility like in something like that?
Now, this particular helm is decent. It's pretty decent. You can actually see almost 180 degrees in front of you. However, when I look down, there is a challenge there. Those little holes for breathing disrupt your view a little bit. So there are some pluses and minuses. Fully protected face, I can see the breathing's a little tougher.
Now, we've talked about your armor. What about weaponry? Now, chat's going to be voting on which weapon you get, but is there one that you're hoping to get from the rack here?
Absolutely. If chat's listening, William Marshall and myself, we both enjoy a good shield and sword and shield. It's very versatile for many different types of opponents. So in a situation like this, that's what I would go for.
Fantastic. Well, one last thing I have to ask you. How are you feeling about your chances against Kelsey? She is a formidable opponent.
Absolutely. I never had a chance to fight Kelsey. She's trained with us. We train all the time, so it's going to be a great honor to fight her. I know her fighting style. She has a lot of energy. She brings it. Couldn't be a better choice for Jeanne d'Arc, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's meet her. It is my pleasure to invite to the ring our French Empire portrayal, Kelsey, who's going to be playing Jeanne d'Arc. Welcome! Thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh, you look amazing. How are you feeling?
Thank you so much. I'm feeling super amped up, honestly. Really
like
excited
Joan?
here. Oh yeah, like she brings next level energy, total powerhouse, and a lot of people in the community know that I tend to be like that too. So I'm coming for you, man.
Now, I know, Danielle, you were telling me the fleur-de-lis was a pretty iconic part of Joan's costume. Walk me through that.
Yeah, so this represents the French, and it has for centuries before Joan even fought, and so this is a perfect standard for her. You do see it in the game too, but she's wearing the fleur-de-lis because she is a proud French woman.
She actually does look a lot like the in-game model. If we did a side-by-side comparison, a lot of the coloration is the same. Now, it's been explained to me that this is not actually a duvet, but it's a gambeson.
Yeah, it's like the coziest blanket you could possibly wear and the greatest protection to disperse the amount of hit energy that you're going to get, or that I'm going to get. And then also, you know, it protects me against bruising, everything like that. So it's like a really big security blanket. I don't know if I would ever want to fight without it. I couldn't imagine.
Speaking of, what do you normally fight in? Is this pretty close to what you normally wear?
No, this is actually not what I normally fight in. I normally fight in brigandines, so it's smaller pieces of plate. They're titanium, so it's a lot lighter. I'm generally a quicker fighter, come out with a lot of energy, and so forward movement and a lot of movement is what I tend to prefer. But against an opponent as large as Jay, with the amount of force that he can put behind a hit, this is definitely where I want to be sitting at. So I'm like a little tank action. Yeah.
Speaking of little tanks, Danielle, walk us through some of the differences between Joan's helmet in the game and what Kelsey's going to be wearing today.
Well, what's similar about these two different styles of armor, you see it's plate armor, which is similar to what Jay's wearing. What's cool about it in the game and what Kelsey's wearing today is she's wearing what's called white armor. Now, people don't realize that usually people would paint their armor so that you could recognize another knight on the field, and it also prevents rust. But we know that Joan wore white armor, which is unpainted, and we see that on Kelsey. We see this on Joan as well. Now, the helmet, you're going to notice a big difference. So Joan is wearing a Sally helmet. She doesn't have a bever on it. She's got her visor lifted, which can be something very dangerous. And so Kelsey is going to wear a bassinet helmet. She's going to have her face covered, which is going to give her less visibility, but it's going to protect her face, which is something we definitely want to see happen today.
I mean, we've got the helmet here. It looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see you with it on. What's it like when you have it in?
So it's actually, we tried going with the Sally before, and the visibility on that and breathability is really difficult. So I'm actually very grateful and prefer wearing this helmet. It's nice because the visor flips up. It allows me to breathe really well. I'm used to a wolf rib, and that has a lot of breathability and a lot of visibility. So this will be a fun experience to fight in something completely different.
Now, I know endurance is a big part of the game. You were telling me it's not uncommon for you to work out in your armor.
Yeah, actually, I have a really amazing gym, and I'm from HB. I live in HB, and yeah, they let my boyfriend Colin Martin know, who's also in our sport as well, 9th best in the world, and we work out all the time in our armor. We're on the treadmill constantly doing cardio, and for the longest time, they thought it was the most bizarre thing. People were taking pictures, and now they're just like, oh yeah, look at those crazy people in armor. It works though for our sport for sure.
Fantastic.
Well, she's going to be fighting just small moments at a time here, and that's not to say it's not difficult. It's so difficult, and you really have to work on your endurance, especially, you know, if we're fighting in the Middle Ages, it can last a really long time. You have to think about what kind of training you're going to do so that you can endure for that long. I mean, she's got the plate armor. It's going to keep her a little bit safer from bruises, but when it comes to that cardio, you got to train hard.
Now, since endurance is the name of the game here, even with 1-minute rounds, I know that the first round is going to be just 2 of them, and then going into the third, there's going to be 3 bouts. Is there a weapon that you think can carry you through more so than another one?
You know, absolutely, actually. I'm normally love doing sword and buckler, and I do enjoy it. However, just in the spirit of Joan d'Arc and the fact that I'm feisty, that bollocks dagger, you guys all want to see me fight with that. And that sword, that's where I'm at. I'd love to come at him with that. Yeah.
I know we saw you kind of play around with the buckler a little bit earlier.
Yes.
You know, it reminded me so much of Dark Souls, because in that game, you know, you can use the buckler to do counterattacks, and actually seeing you warm up and do some of those moves was absolutely amazing.
It is amazing. That buckler is a state of the art. It's a piece of art for sure. Yeah.
Isn't it like 20 pounds?
It's like 20 pounds and wildly heavy, and definitely going to have to talk to the gentleman who owns it, because I don't get how he does it.
Is there any special strategy you're going to be employing against an opponent who's much larger than you, like Jay?
Absolutely. I intend on keeping my distance, coming in with a bunch of quick hits if I can. Just going to try to, you know, endure if he gets me, but I highly doubt he will.
Sometimes when you're smaller, what you want to do is just be faster and just get inside. And if she gets the weapons that she wants, she can get a lot of hits in there just by getting underneath and using her size, using her speed.
The dagger is a fast weapon. I think you could score a lot of points with it. Let's see if the chat agrees. Now, chat, this is where you get involved as my honorary co-hosts on this production. You can use the heat map extension on desktop. Join us at twitch.tv/crown and help vote on which loadout both of these fighters will be choosing. First up, we'll be choosing Jay's loadout. There's a couple of different options here. Go ahead and walk us through these, Danielle.
Yeah, what we see first is the pole axe, which I would use against zombies. This is a two-handed weapon, and what's cool about it is we do have that axe head on the front. We also have a spike on the top, which you'd be using in medieval combat, but not here. What you don't see in this picture is the back of this particular weapon has something that looks like a meat tenderizer. It is a brutal weapon, and like all pole arms, you can use both ends of it. You can hit the opponent with the blade or with the other end of it, and as a staff weapon, you can actually hit with the middle of it. Then we have the Templar sword, which is a hand-and-a-half sword or a bastard sword, and that is because you can use it in two different ways, with two hands or with one hand. You also have the kite shield. The kite shield is something that is shaped in this way because it was used by people on horseback, and it gives you a lot of coverage on your legs, which is something you need. William Marshall was a knight, so this would be something he'd need to cover his legs with. And then the third option is the militia hand axe. So most knights would have a secondary weapon, usually on the belt, in case they lost their major weapon or they needed to use their other hand. So the militia hand axe is his other option.
You know, chat, we love to see you that excited. I was just seeing the whole screen color up, but it's very clear who the winner is. Our master at arms is going to fly in that hand-and-a-half sword with the kite shield. Well, it looks like our very own William Marshall is outfitted in the weapon of choice. Are you feeling pretty good? Good. Feeling good. But we cannot leave our French Empire fighter unarmed. So once again, chat, we're going to ask you to take a look at these three loadouts and choose which one you would like to see Kelsey use in the ring. Now, we know which one she prefers, but walk us through all these options, Danielle.
So the first option is also two-handed. It gives a lot of distance, like Brian was talking about. It's the bullish pole arm, and it's got a nice blade. It's only got the blade on the front and sometimes a spike on the top. Now, she can use the other end, especially if she wants to hit her opponent with that. With all pole arms, that's a possibility she can use. Then we have the arming sword and buckler. So we were talking about this a little bit. An arming sword is a good weapon to have. It's a bit smaller than a two-handed weapon. It's got two edges on it, so she could use either one. And the buckler, this particular buckler is pretty heavy. But as you were talking about earlier, a buckler is an offensive weapon as well as a defensive one. So she can actually hit her opponent really hard with this metal buckler, which is something to see, let me tell you. The other option, which is Kelsey's preferred one, is the arming sword plus the Bollock dagger. It's called the Bollock dagger for an obvious reason if you see it pretty close up. So this is a good option too because it gives her a lot of speed. She can do a lot of damage with the arming sword in one hand and the Bollock dagger in the other hand.
I'm not at all surprised that Twitch chat chose the Bollock dagger.
It's fierce, it's fierce.
I know, we're very mature in here. But you know what? I think we're gonna see Kelsey deal some damage with that Bollock dagger. Go ahead and bring it out, our wonderful master of arms.
Look at this swagger, I love it.
I love it. She looks so confident. I'm so excited to see that energy at play, Kelsey. I know you're gonna kill it. I'm still siding with Jay here a little bit. You're my dude. I got a side pull going with Danielle, so
no.
Better be the greatest night of all time, but I feel like you're gonna kill it too. I'm so excited to see these two go head to head, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna see the English Empire versus the French right after this.
It's cool time!
Every episode of my channel.
Ow! That's crazy! Oh, let the clicking begin! I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop.
I am your host, T-Pain.
That was fantastic.
How would it get better than this?
So cool.
Y'all eat crickets and all kind of wild stuff.
Pass me a towel.
This is outstanding. It's thrilling. Let's go!
That's what we do. Oh, I don't have a gun. Bro, I'm running on Mike Tyson on these zombies.
Hey, this is the first time this has ever been done.
And get this, no calories. This is gonna be amazing. 5 teams will compete over the next 3 days to determine who is the greatest player in the known universe.
This season, it'll be even higher stakes with 4 competitors battling it out for this $50,000 top prize.
This is a show that highlights some spectacular content here on Twitch.
Ultimately, you are going to help decide the winners of this year's Crown Cup.
WW Fest is about to begin. Are you ready?
Oh, that sounds good.
I've been coming up hot for a minute.
Welcome back to Simulation Mode Age of Empires 4. Me and Danielle are super excited. We're just about to see the English Empire face off against the French. We talked to both of our combatants. They both seem raring and ready to go.
I mean, this is a really old rivalry between England and France, and so I think they're going to kill it. They're going to really put their best effort into this, and I can't wait to see it.
They both got skin in the game, and in Joan's case, sadly, burning skin because she was burned at the stake. But you know what? She is here for revenge. I think Kelsey is the person to get it done. But we all know I'm secretly rooting a little bit for the English. We got a bit of a side pool going here. It's not because I like the English. It's because Jay's wonderful, you know?
This is Kelsey's day. This is Kelsey's day. We're going to see her. She's going to slay.
I hope Jay makes you eat those words. I think Brian is ready for us in the ring.
I remember. Looking for clean hits. Top of the head, mid-thigh, elbow up. Most points wins. Fighter ready? Fighter ready?
Hey, here we go.
A little love tap for sportsmanship. Oh! Wow. Kelsey is going right for it. Hammering against that kite shield. She struck several blows to the lower thigh, but it looks like Jay is hammering, using that size to get up and over the head.
Yes, he's using his shield to push her off because she is really coming up in the face too. I mean, this is why she picked these weapons. They are so fast, and she is really going for it.
She's finding small openings to get in with that dagger in the offhand. We are seeing a classic matchup of dual wielding versus that sword and board combo that's so popular in RPGs.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see Jay here, and he's going with that overhead strike, right? And this is when you want to have a helmet that will allow the blow to slip off because it is a hard hit that he's giving her on the top of her head.
As we're coming into the last 10 seconds, we can tell that the fighters are starting to get a little bit fatigued. This is a very much endurance-based sport, but Kelsey is still trying to get some points in. Come on, Jay! And it is over. I feel like that one is so tough to call. I feel like Jay got some amazing hits in there, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
Our fighters are now going to take a moment to rest. Their squires are going to get them some water with each round chat. Just as a quick reminder, we do 2 matches of 1 minute each, and then we take a quick break.
1 minute
Kelsey
is
was so fast.
So fast for us, right? But when you're in there, when there's our blades coming at you, it's a long time to be in there. And look at them, they were giving such a great effort in there. It's super exciting, and it's loud, isn't it?
It's very loud. You can see like the wood splinters flying from the kite shield. It does look like Jay was able to deflect a lot of those blows. I know you were talking about the way a kite shield is sort of designed to deflect those blows. Walk us through that a little.
Yeah, so most of the shield that you'll see today have a metal part on the front that's called a boss, and that's there to sort of help protect the hand and also make those blows move off the shield. But we saw also it's a way to push your opponent away from you, and you can use it to make some pretty hard hits. So that is, kite shield in itself is a good way to fight off your opponent.
I have to say, watching Jay bring up that kite shield to kind of interpose some distance between himself and Kelsey was really impressive. It also looked like it was at a very dangerous angle. How often would would your arm get broken doing this type of thing?
Well, a kite shield is pretty good because you can hold it across the front of your arm. If he was using a buckler or if Jean was using a buckler, that could be more dangerous because you're holding that on your hand. And if you get that hit at the right angle, you can actually break your wrists. You want to be careful. You want to wear gauntlets and make sure you're not breaking your wrist. So a kite shield is a little bit better for that. It sits on the forearm, which makes it a little easier to hold on to, and it's a little bit less dangerous, but all of this is dangerous. I mean, it is warfare we're looking at.
It is warfare, and our combatants are out for blood. They're wonderful friends, but also fierce competitors, and they all want a shot at that final round of combat. It looks like our squires are just about finished up and getting them ready for combat, getting them some water, catching their breath, and it looks like Brian is just about ready for us. He's just staging our fighters at their marks. Brian, whenever you're ready.
Fighter ready? Let's keep it up.
Wait!
And we are off. Once again, oh, seeing John Dark pry the kite shield aside, using the weapon, opening. Oh, the backhand, the swirling hit. Jay is showing that he is a master of the craft right now. The technique is impeccable.
Absolutely, and as he's coming over the top, she's coming underneath. Anytime you can get an advantage, looking at where your opponent is going, you want to go for it. You want to get underneath and see if you can get those strikes in.
We're seeing the offhand come out with some punching, some pushing back. It looks like Kelsey's approach to this is completely different than our William Marshall's. She is creating openings for herself. Look at this, just getting in the fray, dealing every blow she can, getting every point she can.
That's right, because it's a point-based system. She has to make a good hit. She doesn't have to hurt him. She has to make a good hit, which is what, look at what they're doing.
It's a game about winning. In the last 3 seconds, they're just trying to get as many points as they can. Kelsey trying to get in, and it is over. A wonderful show of martial sportsmanship from both of our combatants.
I know. Did you see that? That was amazing. That's
My
something
heart
you don't
is beating
see
so fast.
It's exciting, and I think that, you see it in a video game and you're so distanced from it, but when you're here next to it, you can hear it. You can see, these friends of ours now who are so exhausted. You really get to be part of history, and I hope that's what the audience is feeling today with us.
Exactly, chat. You can get involved as well using the different commands. You can predict whether or not you think the French Empire is going to come out on top or the English Empire. Our judges are currently deliberating on who scored more points and who came out the victor. It was really hard to tell, but I still think it's my boy William Marshall. I feel like he had the size, the stature to create all of these openings for himself. Kelsey really brought it back in that second match, prying the kite shield from the sword, opening up, and then just going for the chest with that dagger. It was amazing to see. Look at those leg hits.
Every individual fighter has to go with what their body is good at, and I mean, Jay is so big and he can get this height on his blows. He can do it right over top, and so to counter that, you need to get underneath. You need to get as many strikes in as you can. That was a beautiful twirl he did there, which shows how well you can move in armor.
He's so elegant.
I know,
I
right?
wasn't expecting him. I feel like, does he get bonus points for that? I feel like he should get bonus points for that beautiful. I don't think any of it. I gasped. But we do have the winner. Brian, take it away. Who came out on top in this battle?
It was an excellent fight. It was really close. I love the sportsmanship. I love the moves. Nice spin move, by the way. It's a close match, but the winner of match 1 is England. Kelsey, you had the arming sword and the Bollock dagger. I know you were very excited. How did it work for you in the ring?
Pretty amazing, honestly. He's just so big. Like, he's overwhelmingly large. Overwhelmingly large. And he brings the heat. But it was a good time.
You got a lot of hits in, Any particular moments that stand out to you?
Yeah, his twizzly spin move there. That was a thing of beauty, and I felt it, too.
We'll have to check in with Danielle if that is historically accurate. Well, we'll check with her later. Jay, congratulations. How are you feeling?
Feeling really good. It was a great honor to fight her.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted the sword and shield. You got the sword and shield. Was that the key to your victory?
Absolutely. I mean, she was swinging with both weapons, so it allowed me to block a lot while still trying to keep her at bay. I'm just glad she didn't use the dagger the way she was supposed to, so I'm happy about that.
I saw a couple shield bashes in there, too. Were those timed or were those reactionary?
Yeah, you know, you got to try to do both. Time it just right. If you have enough space, it creates just proper impact. So it worked out.
Are you excited to match either the Rus or China in the final?
There's no good option there, so I'm just going to have to fight.
Love to hear that. We're excited to fight here. Back to you, Danielle and Jasmine.
I think I'm going to go with Twizzly spin move for Evermore. That was
love
beautiful.
it. You're my boy, Jay! Yes! Jay.
It wasn't Jones' day today, but I mean, to lose to William Marshall, that is no dishonor at all. He was amazing, and he did a great job today.
It was kind of my day, though, because I did bet on the right fighter. Let's take a look at that bracket. It looks like the English Empire will be proceeding to round 3 against one of the 2 victors from round 2, which is the Chinese Empire and the Rus Empire. Now, I don't know who's going to come out ahead in this next sort of bout of combat. We've got 2 formidable warriors. It sounds like Jay doesn't know which one he wants to fight more either.
I mean, Jay's got his work cut out for him no matter who wins the next bout, so it's going to be an amazing fight to see.
I can't wait for us to get into it. When we come back, chat, we're going to be meeting the combatants from the Rus Empire and the Chinese Empire right after this.
Meine besten Kugeln.
Welcome back to Simulation Mode, Age of Empires 4. I am Jasmine Bhullar, your host today. This is Danièle Cybulskie, my Sherpa through the world of medieval lore. How do you feel about that last match?
Oh man, that was awesome. That is something you don't see every day. It's so cool to see England and France bite it out here. Not bite it out. Oh my gosh, that would be a totally different sport.
I don't think that's a legal move. We'll have to double check with Brian.
I mean, that's why they wear the visors, right? They're so fierce.
Hey, any advantage you can get in battle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. We are fighting so safely here, but when you're actually fighting for your life, everything goes, including fighting, which is just a nasty way to go, I think.
I personally feel like our Kelsey really just played it classy with the dagger, because I would have been making all kinds of illegal moves with that, I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Versus a big guy like Jay, you gotta do whatever you can, you know? Go for the weak joints, but like Brian said, that's not allowed.
I know. I'm sure she would have gone for it in real life, because that dagger is meant to slip between all those cracks in the armor, the neck, the groin, the eyes, all of these things. Unfortunately, she didn't subject poor Jay to that, and they had a good fight here.
It was an amazing fight in the Western bracket, but of course, now we've got to meet our representatives from the Eastern Empires. First of all, I mean, wait till you just see this armor.
I know.
Presenting the Rus Empire, we have Jake Schultz, who's going to be portraying a man-at-arms. Come on down, Jake. Hey, Jake. You look absolutely amazing. How are you feeling today?
Oh, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I grew up playing Age of Empires 1 and 2 a lot, so very excited.
What was your favorite faction?
I mean, just growing up watching Braveheart and stuff, every time I played sports growing up, I just always imagined I was in one of the Braveheart battle scenes, so playing that campaign growing up was, that was my jam.
I get it completely. So tell us a little bit more about your armor today.
So all the armor I'm wearing is handmade, titanium, made in either Ukraine or Russia. So I'm really honored to represent the Rus Empire today.
So you're actually wearing your own armor?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky today because I'm wearing all my own armor, and unlike the man-at-arms, I'm getting to wear, a little bit of plate, so I'm a lot more protected, and we've just added some elements to let me match the man-at-arms.
Do you think that gives you like a competitive edge in battle since you're using a kit that's very familiar to you?
Yeah, I'm very attuned to this kit, and I've kind of optimized it to be mobile and fast and lightweight, so.
Amazing.
Absolutely, you want every advantage you can have, and having armor that is made just for you is something that everyone wants in the Middle Ages and today when you're fighting. It gives you a good fit. You don't have any of that chafing or soreness after having been fighting for just a long, long time.
Now, I have to ask, was it a huge investment? Was this your first armor set, or did you start with something a little bit more economy budget, you know, great value?
No, I kind of dove all in when I first started the sport, but this is my second suit of armor, so it's a very much of a learning experience. So, you know, you jump in, you learn, you buy a suit of armor, and then, you know, you learn what you like and what you don't like, and then you buy your second suit.
Yeah, armor might not be where you want to cut corners because it is what's going to keep you safe when you have an opponent like we just saw Jay coming at you. You want to have the best armor you can afford, just like back in the day.
Was armor hard to come by back in the day?
Well, I mean, you did have to have specialized people who were making it, so you needed to find the right people to make it. It couldn't just be any blacksmith. You wanted to have real specialization, but it had to be made custom to fit you. If you were wearing someone else's armor, that could be really difficult, and you'd have to adjust for that. You want to have custom armor whenever you can.
Fantastic. Now, since you're working with a kit that is more your speed, do you have any tactics that you think you're going to bring to bear in the field in terms of weaponry?
I mean, I think it really comes down to what the weapon loadouts are giving me. I'm going to see what my opponent gets and see what I get, and then just kind of go from there. But definitely try to use, you know, speed, mobility all the time.
Now, is your helmet going to play a factor here? We got to get a shot of this helmet. You have like this crazy. Where is this helmet from? You got to tell me the story behind this.
So actually, this is the one piece of my armor that I'm wearing today that isn't mine. I've borrowed this from a fellow fighter because this this helmet closer matches, you know, a different character in the Rus Empire in the game. So we thought it would look great on here. Definitely doesn't breathe as well as my normal helmet. Definitely can't see as well, but I definitely get you know, an advantage on intimidation.
Oh, definitely. I feel like that it's one of those like magical items that you attune to in D&D that when you wear it, you just get a proficiency bonus or some kind of advantage on intimidation throws. Because when I saw you wearing it backstage, it's like you are such a personable guy with a high charisma stat. Seeing that, I was like, oh my God, what is this?
And you can't discount that when you're actually fighting someone. You want to have that mental game as well. You want to be intimidating, and I mean this helmet achieves it.
Fantastic. Now let's get a side-by-side of what your loadout looks like compared to the Rus men-at-arms from the game. Walk us through this, Danielle. Now I see a curved blade. You know me, that gets me a little bit excited.
Yeah, so this is a Rus saber, which is something that you see a lot in Asia, right? So we have the Rus who had fought a lot of Mongols. So this has a curved blade. It's used against cavalry. It's used by cavalry. And so this is something that you see in Asia, not so much in Europe. So it's great to see that here. And I love how we have a fur vest. We have a fur vest from Rus. I mean, fur trading was one of the most important exports from the Rus, so it's great to see that represented here. Now, again, the difference that we have is this Rus, from what we can see here, he does not have his face covered, and again, that's not something that we want. So Jake has this amazing anthropomorphic helmet. This is something that is kind of unique to the Rus in the game. We have this Viking ancestry, and we do see some anthropomorphic helmets. Places like Sutton Hoo, right? There's a bit of that kind of Scandinavian ancestry there that's informing the Sutton Hoo helmet, and also this one. Also a little bit to the south of Rus, you have anthropomorphic helmets here. So it's great to see this on Jake, and it's super intimidating, as you said.
You know, that Viking influence always kind of gets you excited. I mean, from playing the game, the Vikings have influenced a lot of history, especially in that first beginning campaign. Yeah. I mean, shout out to the Vikings for helping me win that Battle of Hastings. But I wonder how, like, it's going to help you fare today winning the battle against your opponent. Now, I hear that she's used to be your squire.
Yeah, we've been teammates for a number of years and have trained and stuff, and she's a great duelist, so it's going to be a tough match for sure.
I mean, she might use some of your own tricks against you.
Yeah, and she knows all of my tricks.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna be like one of those Anakin moments, like, you have the higher ground. Look, we have drama on the show, we have action, we have history, we have everything. We have everything. We're bringing you high tier content. Now, is there a weapon that you want the chat to vote for that you're thinking, that you're hoping that they'll lean towards? I know you said you had to get a look at the whole loadout, but is there one on that rack that you're like, if that's an option, chat, go for it?
I mean, the Rus saber is definitely catching my eye, although I normally do two-handed weapons, but that one just looks so cool. I think that's the one I would ask for.
That's fair. I would love to see the saber in combat too. But first, we've got to meet your opponent. Representing the Chinese Empire, we have Helena, who's going to be showing us an elite Imperial Guard.
to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you?
So good, so good. And it's great to see you, and you're going to be up against Jake. It's going to be epic.
It's going to be awesome.
So, Helena Harlow, tell us a little bit about yourself. When you're not knighting, what are you doing?
I'm in the Navy. I'm active duty, and I train a lot at an MMA gym down in San Diego. Beyond that, I also work with an organization that's helping resettle refugees in the San Diego County area. We work with Afghani families. We work with Syrian families, South American families, people coming in from anywhere in a refugee status that need help.
That is so heartwarming.
Yeah, absolutely. You can be a fighter and still have a big heart, obviously. And we see this with
You're probably one of the coolest people I've ever met. You're like over here serving your country and helping refugees and also murdering people in the ring.
Oh, you're making me blush.
You're making me blush in that stunning armor. Let's get a side-by-side comparison and look at both of these. Now, the unit in the game is just as flashy as what we're seeing Helena decked out in right now.
Earthbender chic.
Absolutely. She is one of the most colorful people we have here. And if we can see it side by side with Age of Empires 4, we can see she is wearing this armor that usually in China they had lamellar armor. So this is a bunch of plates that are overlapping. Sometimes they're metal, sometimes they're lacquered, which is really cool. Some of the older ones that we have, or actually later ones that we have, are like rawhide that's lacquered, which is pretty cool. You could sometimes hide the plates under something like this and have them riveted together underneath the cloth. And then what happens later is you have this kind of style that follows that, where you still have the rivets, but you don't actually have the plates underneath. Now, Helena is wearing plate underneath, so she's going to be feeling a lot more protected against Jake, which is definitely something that we want.
Is this a loadout? Is the plate mail underneath something that you've used before?
Oh yes, so I've actually had this kit for 3 years now. It's been holding up amazing. It's actually a Burgundian Gothic kit that we covered up with this costume to help more accurately represent the Ming Dynasty fighter in Age of Empires.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to have this color. And she shows up so beautifully. I mean, like, this is our most colorful round. We have the orange, we have the green.
You know, us Asians, we just love our colors. I mean, if you play the Delhi Sultanate in the game, you'll see this firsthand. We like a lot of brightness. And I actually have a bit of a historical tidbit for you, Danielle.
Sure.
I've been studying. I had to up my game since you were here. But I've actually learned that a big part of the reason why some of the armor coming out of this era from the Chinese Empire was so extra and just like kind of dripping in finesse was because they were utilizing, there was a huge influx of trade by utilizing some of those old Mongol trade routes.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of silver coming in, we had a lot of wealth coming in, and that really shows in the armor and in the weapons. I mean, is there one of the Chinese Empire weapons that you like the most? They're all so flashy and beautiful.
They are, and I have to admit though, I have a soft spot for that Guandao.
I mean, I get it. Guan Yu uses that weapon. Right. I simp for Guan Yu. That is like the coolest character ever. Like, I'm a big fan of him.
Like all of you in the chat know you want to see the tiny little girl with the big old polearm. And I want it because I have a Napoleon complex.
I mean, I get it. And you might need some of that reach to fight someone quite a bit bigger than you now. Jake has some size on you. Yes. Is that why you're hoping for the Guandao to put some space between the two of you?
That is a big part of it. Jake is very athletic. He's very fast. He's very strong. And I kind of need to keep him back until I can choose a good time to strike.
Exactly. So not only keeping him at a distance to keep him from striking her, but to give her some mental time to come up with a strategy. She needs to read his body. She needs to see his weaknesses, and having
I love you too. I saw that.
Gives her some time to do that.
Thank you so much to the chat for that featured chat and hyping up our combatants and cheering them on. They're going to need it. Is there a mental part of the game here from fighting someone you used to squire for?
I just want to make him proud.
Oh, see? I feel like you will. I'm telling you, Helena just melts my heart. Like, I need you to win, Helena. No pressure. I feel like Danielle's going to feel guilty for betting on the Rus Empire now, because like I said, we have our side pool going.
No, I want Jake to look back at this fight and be like, yeah, I helped teach her. Yeah.
Exactly. You get a bit of pride from that. Okay, so yeah, let's have a look at what the difference is between your armor and what it's like in game. So here we have the Imperial Guard. The big difference is that, again, we have a helmet that's open, and we don't want to have that here in the ring. So we're going to have Helena with a closed helm, which is something that we definitely want. And here we have the Imperial Guard in green too. I love this. And he's using the Guandao here, the Guandao. And as you can see, this is a pole arm that's great for slashing. It's got a bit of a nasty bite on the back of it, which is going to be dulled for our purposes, which I think Jake is going to be thankful for. So we can see that Helena looks so much like this game, and I think it's going to be just beautiful watching her fight Jake.
Now, in addition to the Guando, I saw that knee hit. That was not lost on me. That's illegal in this game, but you know, that would be a strategy to go for, Jake. I feel like the gameplay footage here is kind of setting you up for some combos. In addition to the Guando, we do have the Jian sword on the rack as well. Helena, are you experienced with this weapon, or is that something that you would like to bring to the ring?
I do have experience with one-handers. They're not my primary weapon form, but I am comfortable with them.
Do you switch up your strategy at all when moving from a large two-handed weapon to a one-handed weapon? I'm assuming yes, but...
I need much more footwork when I have less range, because when I'm using a one-handed weapon, I am generally one of the shortest people in this sport in the US. So when I'm using a one-handed weapon, I give up a lot of reach. So it becomes this dance of trying to step in without getting hit, but getting them in a position where they are vulnerable enough that I can score a few points before if you've ever played Bloodborne.
I have. I'm a big Bloodborne fan.
Right, you know that butt tap and run?
Yes, yeah, 100%. Because that's how you heal in Bloodborne. Like, if you take damage, you only heal by, like, inflicting that damage. Yeah, so you gotta inflict. I picked the right fighter, y'all. I'm crying.
These guys are seriously vibing. I
know. Listen, I love Bloodborne. I actually liked it a little bit more than Dark Souls, I know, Heresy, because of that speed of combat. And you're right, you have to really choose your opening against these giant bosses you're fighting, get in as many hits as you can, and get out before you run out of stamina. Now, I know that that's going to probably be a bit of a factor here as well. Does it feel the same? Is that weird to ask?
In what terms?
Like the stamina meter depleting and trying to get as many hits in before you roll out?
I think the extra layers are definitely affecting my stamina meter today.
Is it pretty hot under there?
It is.
So I feel like Jake's going to be your cleric beast, right? You know what? That was from Dark Souls.
More like
a fake fan. I'm a fake fan.
No, more like a Martyr Ligarius.
There we go, Martyr Ligarius. Yeah. I don't know if you know that, Jake, but that says a lot about you.
I've lost so many. I've lost count of how many times I've died.
You know what? That game is about dying. That's the way we get better.
But you're not going to die today.
You're not going to die today, especially if chat chooses a great weapon for you to work with. We're going to go ahead and go into the loadout for our Rus Empire fighter. Chat, this is where you come in.
Right, so here we have a great option for the Rus Empire. So the first is the battle axe, which again harkens back to that Viking ancestry. So he can use that with one hand with a heater shield. Now you notice that the heater shield is kind of similar to the kite shield. It's the evolution of the kite shield. It's got a flatter top to it so he can see a little bit better over it. And this battle axe has a nice grip on it. So he's got that leather, he can have a good grip. And at the bottom it's got rivets, so it's a particularly devastating weapon. Then we have the Rus saber, which we talked about a little bit. It's got a big curving blade. It's got one side that's sharp on it, and he can use it with the heater shield. The good thing about the saber is it's a very fast weapon, and we know that Helena is going to give him a lot of grief in that whole speed thing, so it's something important that he might want to use. Then we have the straight sword. So again, we're getting back to that Western style. The straight sword has two edges on it, so that it's good to swing both ways. So that is something that he could definitely use. That's kind of more of a classic European style weapon, more like the ones that we saw from William Marshall earlier.
It looks like it was pretty close, but the chat has spoken. We are going in with the Rus saber. Bring that in, Brian, our wonderful master of arms. I gotta say, Jake, seeing you in full regalia, you really do strike an imposing figure.
And did you notice that the paint job is exactly what we have in Age of Empires 4? I love that. It looks beautiful. You're gonna kill it. I love it.
This is what we do here on simulation mode, as close as we can. While keeping the fighter safe, we're going to try to recreate all of these iconic characters from the game, but we can't leave our wonderful Helena without a weapon. Once again, chat, we're going to pull up 3 loadouts. You get to choose, using that heat map extension on desktop, which one you would like to see Helena use in the ring.
So first we have the Jian sword, which we talked about a little bit. Now this is different from European swords in that cross guard is almost non-existent. There's very little there. So she can't use quillins to hit her opponent with. She has a round shield. Usually these shields are made of wood, and sometimes they are wood stacked on top of wood in a kind of a plywood way so that you have that strength. They're usually covered with leather. They have all of these rivets on them, and you see that shield boss, which we talked about earlier, which means she can hit him with that. That is something she can definitely do. The Guandao or Guandao, it's also called the Yanyu Dao. This is something that is called a reclining moon blade, so that gives her that length, that distance. She's also got a very deadly curved blade on the top of that, and she's gonna wanna keep Jake away from her, so that is a good two-handed weapon to use. And don't forget, she can use the other end of it, which is also gonna be pretty devastating. Then we have the Dao sword and the round shield. So the Dao sword is, again, a weapon that was used by cavalry. It's got a curve like the Rus saber, and she can use it with the round shield. Again, round shields are great for offense and defense, so that is a two-handed option she could use. So all of these are great options for Helena, and I can't wait to see how she does against Jake.
I just want to say, chat, I'm really proud of you.
You do love me.
I'm really proud of you. You do love her. You should have seen how excited Helena was. Master of Arms, bring in that Guandao! Yes! 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 Give me your war face! Ah!
And now it's epic.
I cannot wait to see you swing that thing around in battle. It does have a ring on the bottom, which is really scary. This thing looks heavy. It's bigger than you are. It's a whole 12 inches taller than you. Chat, if only you could see how excited Helena was. She was like, yes. And I was like excited too. I was like, kind of like holding her, like, please chat, vote, don't let us down. Do the right thing. Thank you so much. By watching alone and supporting our fighters today, you're already doing the right thing. We are gonna see the showdown between Rus Empire and Chinese Empire right after this.
The main purpose of heavy cavalry was to charge straight into the enemy.
This is a typical sword of around 1400.
Look at the size of this thing. It's a beast.
He was very lucky it didn't kill him instantly.
The three main shots are the forward shot, the side shot, and the back shot.
This is a type of axe called a bardiche.
Castle walls had to absorb the impact of projectiles fired from trebuchets.
Did you hear that whoosh?
Remounting like this allows us to travel several relays each day.
Compared to a bow and arrow, this is far more deadly.
Welcome back to Simulation Mode, Age of Empires 4, here at the Crown Channel, pun intended. We've got a crown of our own here. I gotta say, this is like really uncomfortable. Imagining people wearing it and then going to blows in it is insane to me.
Yeah, so we've got chainmail in front of us, and it's made from all individually riveted rings, which is something. I mean, it's heavy, but again, this is not out of the question when you're talking about somebody who's going to be fighting. The thing is about chainmail, it can hang really heavily from your shoulders, which is why most people tended to use a belt to kind of hold that up and carry some of the weight on their hips, because it can be really heavy. None of our fighters are wearing complete chainmail today because it's a lot easier to break bones through chainmail. Chainmail is meant to keep you from getting slashed and getting cut open, and you can still break bones through it, which is why none of our fighters are just wearing this.
You know, it's really pokey too. I'm really happy our girls are wrapped in those IKEA blankets to save them from.
You mean gambesons, right?
This. Yeah, yeah. You know what? Kelsey validated that it was a duvet, and I'm never letting that go. Now,
they're also warm and cozy.
Exactly, they're warm and probably a little too warm since they're fighting in these things. Now, coming into our round 2, match 1. Now, just as a reminder, chat, they're going to be fighting for 1 minute with a break, and then a second round of 1 minute. We've got Jake Schultz for the Rus Empire versus Helena Harlow from the Chinese Empire. Now, my money's on Helena for this one. She got her Guandao, sorry, and she wants it What do you think coming into this, Danielle?
Oh man, it could go either way because I mean, look at Jake, he's so intimidating.
Right, terrifying.
Right?
For such a nice guy that we just interviewed who's like an absolute teddy bear, to go from that to this, that's terrifying.
I know, he puts this on and he's a completely different person, which I mean is so similar to what it was like when you're actually living back in the day. You'd have your normal life, right? But when it was time to fight, you get suited up and you'd have that 15 minutes that Jay was talking about to get your head in the game. It's a completely different thing from like going from real life to actually fighting. And so that mental effort that you take, a lot of it has to do with how you're being dressed and how you're presenting yourself to the world. So we see this here with Jake. I mean, it's going to be amazing seeing these two together, especially because they know each other so well.
You know, you always see in fantasy that they have these like crazy animal heads and things like that on helmets. Was that part of this intimidation game, and how accurate is that?
I mean, you did have some helmets that were shaped in kind of interesting ways. There's one that's called a hound skull because it's kind of pointed. It looks a little bit like a dog head, but really you can't sacrifice your visibility or your breathability. You want to have most of these classic helmet shapes because they're the most efficient when it comes to being able to see and being able to breathe.
Well, I hope they can see and breathe. It looks like they're about to get into it. We're going to go to Brian in the ring.
All right. Ready?
Fight!
And they are off.
There you go.
They're doing their love taps for sportsmanship and getting right into it. Whoop.
Wow.
Jake immediately sizing up his opponent, getting in 2 good strikes. But it looks like our Chinese Empire fighter is still using that two-handed to not only deflect blows, but also get in some good hits. It is very heavy, and it looks like some of those misses are costing her dearly. Yes, look at those blocks coming in.
Our Chinese warrior is using kind of a circular motion, kind of like she's paddling, because she can use both ends of this weapon to strike. She can use the blade, she can use the end of it, and she can make some really devastating hits with both.
Oh, a decisive blow twice there. Kind of getting pushed into the corner almost a little bit, being forced to go on the defensive.
Yes. I mean, these are aluminum weapons, but they're still making all sorts of splinters here. She's doing it, she's doing it.
The size difference here is really coming into play. We're seeing it. That is the end of the first bout of our round 2 fight.
Oh my gosh.
I'm worried for my girl out there, Danielle.
She's working hard.
Best. She's trying to keep that distance using this two-handed weapon. She was doing a very good job of it at the beginning, but Jake found that opening and exploited it relentlessly.
That's the thing. So Jake knows she's going to depend on that reach, and he's not letting her get that reach. He's getting nice and inside, and he's making these strikes to her body because he knows if he waits, she can make some pretty good strikes from either end of that guandao. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing fight. And like I was saying, these are aluminum weapons, but they're still making splinters off of these pole arms. So it's pretty intense fighting that we're seeing here.
I mean, like Brian said earlier, the weapons being lighter is just making them swing faster and harder.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing Helena kind of deflect some of the blows with the two-hander, I was very much reminded of Bloodborne. I'm not gonna lie. There was a moment there where I was like, my girl's fighting for her life out here.
She is. And I mean, like, once you're trained so that when it's go time, and you go full out. I mean, this is something that we see our fighters doing. They do it in competition, but also people were doing it back in the day when they were fighting for their lives. So when it's time to go, they give it their absolute all.
You know, I think my prediction going into this is Helena's a smart fighter. She knows that Jake has a size advantage. Yep. I think we're going to see Chinese Empire kind of change up their tactics coming into the second round. I think she learned from that distance being closed and having kind of getting pushed into that corner there. I don't think she's going to let it happen again.
She's got that beautiful technique, though, where it's, again, kind of a circular motion. And this is something that we see from fight books from the Middle Ages, where you want to have a circular motion from up to down, and you want to be devastating all the way, whether it's the top of the weapon or the bottom of it. So she's doing a beautiful job, even if Jake is sometimes getting under her guard. I mean, her technique is fantastic.
It looks like our squires were inspecting some of the damage to that kite shield there. Once again, I know you said it was aircraft aluminum, but we're seeing some of those scratches, some of those scuffs. How often did these things have to get repainted back in the day?
Oh man, all the time. But I mean, the paint is there. First of all, it's meant to identify the fighter, and this is beautiful here because it shows that he is a Rus man-at-arms from Age of Empires 4. It's doing its job, but it's also to keep everything from rusting. It's to keep it all in shape. But you do need to have that maintenance. So imagine when you're having your armor painted as well, which we were talking about earlier, you need to get that repainted all the time. But I mean, these scars look pretty cool.
They do. It looks like they're making sure that Helena's helmet is on safely. We obviously don't want our precious girl to get hurt in the ring today.
Absolutely
Especially
not.
with how formidable a fighter.
And how much we love her.
Exactly. I mean, it's seeing the Rus Empire kind of battle down on her. It was hard for me. My heart was breaking. But it looks like Brian is ready for us in the ring.
Better ready? Better ready.
Fight! You got this. I can feel it. It looks like she's biding her time a little bit. Oh, that looks like it hurt. The Rus Saber coming in, being deflected by the Guando on that first hit, but then finding purchase in the side of the Chinese warrior on the second one. Again to the flank. We're only 20 seconds in, and already the Rus Saber really showing that it's a slashing weapon and not a piercing one.
That's right. It's not meant for thrusting because that's got that curved blade on it, right? This makes it really awkward to thrust with it. You want to slash with it, and that's what he's doing. And you have so much speed on it. He's able to get right over top and hit that
deflection.
Yes.
That is that parry, that frame perfect parry. Come on, Helena!
Yes.
15 seconds.
Look at this go.
He's trying to find an opening. Rus man-at-arms defense and is having difficulty doing so.
Yes, you just get it on place, but my man Jake has got this.
He is putting up a great fight. And Brian comes in to separate our fighters.
That was intense.
What a show of force. You know, I really feel like Jake's technique came to the forefront of that battle.
I mean, we know that he's a master. He was knighted in his competition. And I mean, you see it. He's a master here. He's been doing this for a long time, and he has that confidence. He knows he can advance, but he wasn't panicking even when he sees this Guando coming right at him. He's pushing and pushing and pushing, and this is what you want.
Look at that, though. That perfect block from Helena, perfectly using both ends of that weapon. But the assault from our Rus man-at-arms, the assault from Jake was just so fast. That perfect duck with the shield coming up over the head, like poetry in motion.
That's right. So he's using his shield mostly defensively, which is a smart idea. He's got this big pole arm coming at him, and he's using it defensively instead of offensively, which is a great thing to use.
It was like watching a dance. It's almost like anticipated every move that was coming in. And I think we both know if that Guando connected, it would have hurt.
Oh,
we got to see him get knocked by the back end a couple of times there.
Yes, absolutely. And again, this is something that even if it doesn't cut, back in the day when you're fighting for your life, you can stun your opponent. Even in a helmet like this, you can leave them dazed for a minute, and that is a perfect opportunity to press your advantage, and you might actually win just by hitting them with a blunt weapon.
Wearing that flat top, and like you were saying, that force, you know. And, and I do think that our Chinese Empire fighter did connect with that back end a few times. I saw it hit, but of course, we're not going to know who the winner is until we go to Brian in the ring. I can't take the anticipation. I have to know.
I know. Who was it?
Brian, please, we have to know. Tell us.
Woo! Action is certainly heating up in the ring here. It was a great second match, you two. Well done, Helena. Well done, Jake. After counting, doing some math, the winner of match 2 is the Rus. How do you feel? You still glad that happened?
Of course. I am so glad that y'all gave me that. I've been training a lot with pole arms. And fun fact, Jake just taught me that high block yesterday. So I'm really glad I got to implement that today.
It was amazing. We're definitely going to need to get a shot later of that shield. That paint job is no longer pristine. I know Danielle and the rest of us were very excited about that. It might need a new paint job after this. I mean, was that your main kind of goal, is to target the shield, make his arm tired, drop his guard?
I mean, he's not usually a fighter that fights with a shield. He's clearly amazing at it, but I was like, yeah, I'm just going to make your arm tired, and I'm going to hit you in the head. It almost worked.
I mean, I don't think we even need to check the replay. You hit him in the head a lot.
Yeah.
Well said. Jake, you've done it. You've defeated China as the Rus Empire. You know, how are you feeling?
I mean, I couldn't be more proud and happy to fight Helena. It was a great round. The loadout that she got definitely it gave her the reach advantage, so I definitely had to kind of play farther back and pick the times when I, closed the gap. And you can definitely see the work that she put in on the shield. There's some chunks taken out of it.
I definitely saw that there was times where you guys were backing up and really choosing your targets. I know you were talking about it before. Was that part of your strategy from the get-go, or did you adapt into that?
Yeah, usually I try to kind of set the pacing myself when I take in a more dual situation like this. But with the longer weapon and the fact that it would hit harder than the weapon I had, I was trying to time it so when she would come in with a hit, I could block with a shield, and then in the time it took her to recover the longer weapon, I would jump in and try to get some points.
Very smart, very smart. Now, are you excited to be going to the finals to represent the Rus now against England? Are you worried about William Marshall?
Definitely worried, but I'm definitely going to bring my A game.
We're very excited to see that. All right, guys, go ahead, take a well-earned break. We'll see you soon, Jake. Danielle, Jasmine, back to you.
Oh my gosh, this is such a heartwarming battle, seeing a former squire take on their knight, now a knight herself.
Yeah, and this time I told you my man was going to take it, and he did. Well done, Jake. I mean, I don't want to say that I'm not disappointed in seeing Helena lose, but to lose to Jake, I mean, that is no dishonor at all.
Jake's technique was impeccable. Helena did say going into this that Jake's technique is fantastic, and we saw that come to play. He really utilized that technique to get in underneath that weapon and get those points in. It was a wonderful battle. Now, don't forget, chat, you can also vote in the polls. All you have to do is use the right commands to predict who you think is going to come out ahead in round 3. Let's take a look at that bracket so we can see who exactly is going to round 3. Now, we saw the English and the French kind of come into round 1. Now, William came out the victor. Jay killed it, and they proceeded to round 3. And now in the Chinese Empire versus the Rus have emerged victorious for our round 3 battle. Now the third one is going to be the best of 3. So we're going to have 3 bouts of combat in the finals.
It's going to be epic. I can't wait. I think everyone at home is thinking the same thing. Like, these two fighters are going to be amazing to see together. It's not something that we saw in history, but we get to see it today.
We're kind of seeing almost a little bit of shield supremacy coming out today.
I mean, shields are so good. Sometimes they are something that, you might think are not all that important. They might be heavy, but I mean, you can use them offensively. You can use them defensively, like we saw Jake doing a lot of. It can be so useful, and maybe that might be something that people will think about when they're picking the loadouts for the finals.
Definitely. I think endurance is going to be something that comes into play. It's kind of been the name of the game as we've been coming through this, talking about just the sheer fatigue of wearing these things. Yeah. Now, what would it have been like for an actual knight back in the day to march miles with this stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, you wouldn't usually do the march with your gear on because this is way too much weight for that kind of a walk. Right. But I mean, these people were trained to be knights. If we're talking European, which is the stuff that I know best, these people were trained to be knights from the age of about 7, so they got used to that over time. But I mean, they're not walking around in full chain or full plate mail all the time. It's just too exhausting. But I mean, you do get really, really fast at having your squire arm you up in that so that you're ready to go. But I mean, you do have to take into account the exhaustion of marching. You were talking about Battle of Hastings, right? Harold has to march his army from the north of England to the south, and they're exhausted whether they're wearing harness or not.
Exactly.
And that is something you have to think about, pacing yourself. How much can you work with strategy versus your actual stamina on the field?
And strategy is the name of the game with Age of Empires 4. You know, on the field, the pikemen often come into play when we're talking about cavalry. You know, they're the best counter to that.
That's right.
And here we've seen that it's actually the sword and shield that comes out ahead against the pole arms, which is, it's just kind of interesting to see that come into play even in real life.
I mean, these are weapons. Sword and shield are things that, you have to have a lot of skill to use. The pole arms are something that people can pick up and use whether they haven't had a lot of experience or not. And sometimes this is, your army is made up of peasants who have used axes and stuff before, but they haven't used sword and shield before.
They're like the great value armor.
They're the ones that can use those, and they can use them well. But I mean, a knight or an Imperial Arms Guard, for example, these are people that have been training with these weapons for a really long time. So you can see how well they can use them.
You know, I personally cannot wait to see the final round. My money is on the Rus Empire.
Is it?
I know that Jay has that twirly move. The twirly Lou.
That's right.
That dude moves like a ballerina. He's like
it's-
little twinkle toes out there. He's got like 70 pounds of plate armor on.
I think it's the Twizzly spin, right? It's the Twizzly spin.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go for William Marshall. He's somebody that I've read about for a really long time and is somebody who really studies the 100 Years' War. I mean, it feels good to put your money on England. I mean, William Marshall wasn't part of that.
Does it really feel good to put your money on England?
It does when it's William Marshall.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. William Marshall is a pretty cool dude.
What?
And I feel like Jay is bringing him to life perfectly in the ring. When we come back for the final round, we'll be chatting with our contestants. And of course, chat, you get to help them decide which weapons they'll be using when we come right back.
It's ghoul time!
Every episode of my channel.
That's crazy! Let the clicking begin! I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody learning about it.
I am your host, T-Pain.
That was fantastic.
How would it get better than this? Is so chewy. Y'all eat crickets and all kind of wild stuff.
Pass me a towel. Everybody know. This is outstanding. It's thrilling. Let's go!
That's what we do. Oh, I don't have a gun. Bro, I'm running on Mike Tyson on these zombies.
Hey, this is the first time this has ever been done.
And get this, no calories.
This is gonna be amazing. 5 teams will compete over the next 3 days to determine who is the greatest player in the known universe.
This season, it'll be even higher stakes with 4 competitors battling it out for this $50,000 top prize.
This is a show that highlights some spectacular content here on Twitch.
Ultimately, you are going to help decide the winners of this year's Crown Cup.
WW Fest is about to begin. Are you ready?
Ooh, that sounds good.
I've been coming up hot for a minute.
Welcome back to Simulation Mode, Age of Empires 4 here on the Crown Channel. It has been an amazing day. When I got the call for this job, I was already hyped, and then it just lived up to it. We are seeing real-life Titans battle it out in the field. Y'all are athletes because those last 2 rounds were insane. It's so crazy coming back into the finals. Some of the sheer just like skill we've seen in the ring today. I know we were joking about the twirly move, but jokes aside, seeing that in action, actually seeing it work was insane. I'm glad y'all are wearing those full face covered helmets. We don't want a repeat of that, you know, from the game, you know, that Bayou scroll and the dude that got the thing in his face.
I mean, yeah, Harold, in the Bayou Tapestry, it looks like he got an arrow in the eye. That's in debate. But one of the things that you do see in Age of Empires 4 is that Henry V, when he was just a teenager, he decided he was going to raise his visor on a battlefield, and he actually got an arrow in the face. So that's something that you actually see a historian talk you through in Age of Empires 4. It's just one of the many cool historical details that they have in the game.
You know, the sheer sound coming from the ring is insane, even though it's, you know, it's not the material that was used in the swords of the time. And hearing the blows strike against your helmets, I have to say I was afraid for both of you. What did that feel like? Because for a second there, Kelsey was really battering you.
That's a good point. You know, we actually wear a padded coif. This saves me from that ringing that would otherwise happen. So I've actually sat there when I first started this sport. Actually, you've done it too. Put on the helmet on the new guy. Boom, just hit it, and then just see the reaction. It does really feel uncomfortable, but when you have this on, it really makes a difference.
You kind of get acclimated to it or get used to it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, you got to walk us through this. We got to get another replay of that spinny twirly move. What was going through your mind here? Why did you pull it out of your kit, and what did you hope to achieve?
Well, this move right here really was intended, as you could see, Kelsey was really aggressively attacking. So rather than going on the same pattern of attacks, I wanted to switch it up on her and just see if this opened me up for further attack. And it worked, so.
It did work. She did say she felt it. Are you thinking of employing similar tactics against Jake, or are you going to be using something different this time?
Well, you know, unlike Kelsey, I've fought with Jake before, and I'm very, very aware of his capabilities. We've been teammates, and and we fought together internationally. Love this man, but he's faster than me, and I'm going to keep him at bay as much as I can. And we're going to have fun. Chat, I'm going to leave it up to you. Whatever weapon you guys want to give us, we'll just have some fun with it.
We'll have some fun with it. We are having a lot of fun here today. Seeing you guys, the sportsmanship, the camaraderie, the love for the sport has been just phenomenal. I feel like I'm going to leave here wanting to know more about why you fight, where we can find you, and who you are, because this has just been so phenomenal to witness live.
Absolutely. We could speak about the two major organizations. For example, in the U.S., I'm the regional commander for the Southwest for Armored Combat Sports. And our goal is for men's and women's teams in the country to really grow. We want to grow the community here in the U.S. as much as we can, and then start branching out again into more tournaments. But that's really our goal right now. Grow the community within the U.S., get more folks in this armor, experience it, and go from there.
Well, I got to know, Jake, who do you fight for, and what is your league that you kind of play in?
So I fight on a team called Ordo Draconis. We're based in Orange County, mostly San Diego, but a few of us, fight from all over, especially the West Coast particularly. We fight in a league called Historic Medieval Battles, or HMB. The organization in the U.S. is called HMB USA, and yeah.
Super excited. We've got some footage of you two. Don't worry. We've got some great glory shots. Look at that. I have to ask, what was your approach with the Guando, and what was the goal here? I feel like you were trying to get in around it and get in some blows there, but walk us through it.
Well, I realized with, just the differences in our weapons, I was going to be able to get more strikes in within that minute than she was with the larger weapon, but her weapon would definitely have the reach on me and could hit me harder. So I was just trying to time everything and just make the moments where she was recovering from her attacks really count when I could.
Yeah, it kind of is it's kind of ironic because, Helena was talking about Bloodborne, but you do see that with these big two-handed weapons in video games. If you swing and you miss, you are completely open to be attacked by whatever you're fighting. And it was kind of weird to see that in real life. I was joking at the desk that you were kind of like one of the bosses from the game because you punished her for every missed hit. Every single time that glaive hit the floor, you were right there flanking her.
Yeah, you just kind of got to pick your moments of opportunity when you're fighting at all times, and yeah.
Well, it's time to reveal to y'all what exactly you are fighting for. I mean, the trophy that we have on the line today is absolutely amazing. Let's take a look at it. Yes, it's true. You will be taking home the simulation mode Shield of Glory, of Honor. It's absolutely beautiful. It has that great boss you were talking about, Danielle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a black boss here, so it's got that beautiful kind of styling look to it. It's got our simulation mode axes on it, which I think is great. And it's a kite shield, which is that classic shield that you always see in medieval stuff. So I think it is the perfect trophy for people who are fighting so hard and so well today.
And from my understanding, the shield is completely functional. So we could see Jay do some great work with that because we've already seen you kind of met out the pain with the kite shield.
That thing's beautiful, absolutely. It fits everything I would do with it, 100%.
And I'm sure both of you really want it.
I want it. Don't you want it?
I mean, I feel like it would just be too heavy for me. I liked Kelsey's loadout. I feel like I'm a sword and dagger kind of gal, I'm not going to fight fair. That's why I'm not in the competition. But speaking of weapons, we've got to outfit our fighters for this final round. And chat, that's in your hands. First up, you get to choose the loadout for our English Empire fighter, William Marshall himself.
So for most of this, we've been talking about medieval weapons, and for some of this, we're going to be talking about weapons that are a little bit anachronistic for the time and place that we've been talking about so far. So for William Marshall, we have the double axe as our first option. So we have a long axe and we have a short axe, and both of these are great options because you have that length. He can keep Jake away from him as much as possible, and if he gets Jake within his range, he could use that shorter axe in his offhand. So that is a beautiful option for him to use the double axe. We also have a scimitar, which is something William Marshall would have never used himself. Perhaps when he was on crusade, he picked one up, but usually wouldn't be using it. This is a weapon that's usually used in the Middle East. But it is a one-edged
I'm rooting
weapon.
for the scimitar, Danielle. I would love to see that cultural remix. You know, I come from the land of shamshirs, scimitars, and talwars, and I want to see what our fighter Jay can do with that in his hands.
Right, and we saw Jake using a curved weapon so beautifully last time. We'll see how Jay does with it if he gets picked. The scimitar, and he's also got that shield. It's embossed, it's metal, and that's a good option for him as well.
Fortunately, chat disagrees with me. It's okay, chat. And, you know, we're not always going to see eye to eye. I still love you. Our Master of Arms is going to go ahead and bring in the 2 axes. I can't wait to see what you do with these in the ring, Jay. I mean, do you think these, is this the loadout you were hoping for?
It's a fun loadout. Just going to see what happens.
It's a fun loadout, he says. You know what? I think either way we're going to have fun, but we can only do that if we've got some weapons in our Roos man-at-arms hands as well. Now, come on, chat, don't let me down here. The Roos is kind of who I'm betting on. So I'm going to need you to pick a loadout that's going to help lead them to victory. Let's get that loadout on the screen.
Right, so speaking of anachronistic weapons, we have a dual falcata sword. So that means we have 2 falcatas, which are from Carthage. So this is not something that a Roos fighter would have ever seen. But this is cool because we have a curved weapon, but the curve is going in another direction. And again, he can use 2 blades, 1 in each hand, which is going to be beautiful. Also, we have a great sword, which is something that you see in a lot of video games. This is something that you use with 2 hands. It's got a lot of reach. It's got 2 edges on it that he can use, but again, it's going to be a bit slower because it's so huge. It's a 2-handed weapon, and he also could use the weapon that he had before. So these are all really great options for Jake. We're going to see how it goes.
You know, I know you said the dual falcata sword isn't from this era, but what's really cool about the Age of Empires game is that as your civilizations progress through time, so does the language, so does the culture, and so do the weapons. So kind of having this showdown between weapons from a different era and this one seems very apt.
It's very cool. I mean, when we think about history, a lot of us want to think back to the ancient world, not just the medieval world. And so to have this as an option is really great. It's going to get more people interested in more history, which is what I'm all about.
I think you're completely right, because chat definitely wanted to see the dual falcata's Master of Arms. If you'll do the honors. This is going to be one for the books. You know I'm excited. Yeah, I'm a fan of rogues. I like fighters that are light, that dual wield. So to have a double dual wield battle is just kind of a dream of mine. I cannot wait for us to go into this final round. How are you feeling, Brian?
I am feeling ecstatic. As far as me being in the ring, these are shorter ranged weapons, so I'm going to have a little more room to move about. I do not envy our squires, though, that have to score this and keep track of all these double blow hits. It's going to be insane.
I think it's going to be fast. It's going to be furious. We are going to see in the final round the English Empire face down against the Roos Empire. I need you to kick the English out. Somebody's got to beat the English. You got to do it for the culture.
No, my man's got this. He's got this.
We're going to get into it when we get right back. Welcome back to Simulation Mode, Age of Empires 4, here on the Crown Channel. I am Jasmine Bhullar, your host, and this is Danièle Cybulskie. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an amazing showdown.
I know, it's been so good. I mean, how often do you get to see history come to life like this? It's amazing, and we have such great fighters. As you mentioned earlier, they are great people, and they are so good at what they do. It's just been awesome.
I feel like there's a lot of drama going into this too, like in a good way though. You know, the narrative designer in me is so excited to see these two friends, these two teammates kind of go toe-to-toe in the ring together. We've got Jay for the English Empire portraying William Marshall against Jake for the Roos Empire. portraying a man at arms. Now, Jake Scott, his preferred weapon is a two-handed axe, but what he has been armed with from the chat is the dual falcata versus the two-hand axes for Jay. I mean, how do you think this is going to play out? I have to say, the axes just seem more dangerous to me, but I feel like Jake can do it.
If anyone can do it, Jake can do it, but these axes are absolutely dangerous. I mean, William Marshall, so in the form of Jay today, he's going to have that reach with that one axe so that Jake is going to have to get in really, really close to use his swords, and that is a dangerous place to be when you are up against somebody with such skill. We also know something you mentioned earlier is that Jake's got that flat top helmet, and we saw from Jay earlier he likes to do a lot of strikes that come over the top, that come overhead, and so, I mean, I don't want to be Jake if any of those strikes land on his helmet. It's really going to ring his bell.
Yeah, that flat top helmet, you almost wish he had something more conical in this case, because as we've seen before, our fighter from the English Empire, Jay, does make use of his height, and that's kind of what you have to do. You have to make use of every advantage you have here. Jay did tell us that Jake was the faster fighter, and with those dual falcatas, that might come into play because, once again, chat, this is a game of points.
Yes.
So if he gets in there and he manages to land a flurry of blows, he might come ahead in the points game. He just has to withstand that onslaught from our English Empire fighter.
It's so exciting to see because we saw both of these guys using shields earlier, and so that's a completely different style of fighting, and now they each have a bladed weapon in both hands. It's going to be so dangerous, and they're so fast. It's going to be a flurry of blows to the bodies of both of them. It's going to be amazing, and even if it's a bit ahistorical, I mean, this is what fun like this is all about. You get to experiment and try new things, which I think is one of the great things that Age of Empires 4 allows.
Exactly. Now, because this is the finals round, each of our fighters is going to be going into bouts of 1 minute each with a rest in between. Since this is 3, kind of bouts of battle instead of 2 like we've had in the last 2 rounds, I think the loss of the shield might actually come out ahead because, like they said, holding that thing up does get a bit tiring.
Yeah, you're holding it at such a strange angle, and it's much more comfortable to have a blade in both hands, and we're going to see this happening in just a second. I cannot wait.
You know, and once again, kids, if you happen to have an aircraft-grade aluminum sword at home, do not swing it at your brother. I think they're just about ready. All right, Brian?
Remember, we got 3 1-minute rounds. Fighter ready? Fighter ready. Fight!
This is going to be one for the ages, Jasmine. I can't wait to see it.
I can't wait to see it, too. Oh, and the fear of aggression coming out of both of them. The block with the dual falcata coming up the way it did to block those 2 axes. We are seeing Jake's mastery. We are only 20 seconds in. The way he is using these 2 swords to keep that axe at bay is impressive. Then opening up and getting into himself.
They're using every moment to get as many blows in as they can. And sometimes you lose a bit of finesse when you're doing this, but that is perfectly normal in combat. Sometimes finesse goes out the window and you're just trying to get as many strikes as you can.
Seeing that the English Empire fighter Jay is just kind of controlling Jake's movement using the beard of that axe completely relentlessly, but Jake is not giving in. He is getting in there. He is getting his hits in.
Yes, absolutely. It's been such an exciting round.
What a fantastic fight. I'm speechless seeing the technique coming out of both parties.
Right.
The way Jake was wielding those dual falcatas the best he could to kind of keep at bay those axes. Now, the axes have a little bit more range, but seeing that speed come into play, the way Jay said it was really satisfying. Both of those came up and blocked some of those shots, and it gave him the opening he needed to get some of those hits in. This one's going to be a tough one to call, Danielle.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I don't want to be a person who has to count that many strikes. And one of the things that is really important when we're thinking about these 2 guys, that they have such close helms and they're moving so fast. And when you're working this hard, it's hard to breathe. I mean, we do have those holes in the helmet called breaths, and they are just like the kind that you have in a pet carrier, right? To let your pet breathe is exactly the same way. But you get so tired and so hot, and it's so hard to catch your breath in these things. It is a factor when you're fighting, and when you see these 2, they have such closed helms. It's something that really is going to make a difference, especially in 3 rounds.
You know, I was looking at the featured chat. Chat, I'm just as speechless as you are. There's so many, that flurry of blows, it was so impossible to tell. I do not envy our judges who are standing off camera with clickers, keeping track of how many points have been scored by both of these warriors. The speed at which they were assaulting each other was just it's so impossible to tell.
They move so fast. And I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but people tend to think that, you know, if you are in all of this plate armor, you're very slow, where it's hard to move, but you can see the speed with which these guys can use. And they are using slightly lighter weapons, but I mean, don't make any mistake here. Like, this is a lot of work. The weapons are still heavy when you're using them this long. And even though they have a lot of mobility, it is a whole lot of work.
Going into this second match, I have to say that if Jay can pull off that maneuver again, kind of commanding the movement of the Rus Empire warrior with the axe, he might have it in the bag. It looks like they're just about ready for us. Let's go to Brian in the ring.
Okay. All right. Fighter ready? Fighter ready. Let's keep it up, gentlemen. Fight!
And they are off once more. Round 2. It looks like Jake is kind of picking his openings here.
Again, they're so aggressive. They are just going on the attack. These, they don't have the shield to hide behind, so you might as well just go for it and see how much you can press your opponent.
We're seeing some decisive blows, crushing blows coming from Jake. They are currently entangled with each other. Just, you know, I see Jake picking every opening. In Jay's stance that he can find. Our Rus Empire warrior is fighting for his life.
Yes, absolutely. And Jay is the one who has the longer reach. He has the longer arms. He is a person that is able to trap Jake's arms under the plate, and that's something that you can do when you're wearing plate armor. You are a little bit safer from blades, and you can sometimes trap them under your arms. This is something that Jay does quite a lot of, and it's really classic fighting that you don't often get to see unless you're looking at it close up.
Oh, it looks like we are switching out weapons.
We may have lost a lot of splinters on that one axe.
Yeah, I think that hand axe was damaged in the last round, but our English Empire fighter is going to get back into the fray with that hand-and-a-half sword. How do you think that's going to come into play here? He's going to lose some of that command of movement. I noticed that our English Empire fighter, our William Marshall, was kind of using the beard of that axe. Jay is a very intelligent fighter to kind of control where our Rus Empire fighter was moving. You know, I did notice that for a second there, Jake was able to, towards the end, kind of begin dodging those blows and putting that distance between and then coming in to punish, once again, the same tactic he used against his old squire, Helena.
Yeah, I mean, Jake is so good at reading his opponent and seeing what's happening and then strategizing. So that time is moving almost in slow motion for him in some ways because he's thinking so hard about what his opponent is doing. And you do see Jay is a very crafty fighter. He can use his axe. He can pull on the weapon of his opponent, no matter who it is, whether it's Jake or some other unfortunate, and he can sometimes disarm them with that, which is a very great strategy and something that he's trying to do. I don't think using this bastard sword, this hand-and-a-half sword, is going to slow him down at all. I think he's probably sitting pretty happy there, and it's something that you can use with a secondary weapon like an axe here. It's totally normal for someone trained as William Marshall was to use both of these weapons at the same time.
It looks like our Rus Empire fighter is examining those falcatas. They have served him pretty well so far. I mean, we are coming into the third fight here. I'm feeling a little worried for them. They both seem a little winded. The sheer speed and force coming out of both of these men is just astounding.
I know, and you can see that they're winded, but I don't think either of them are going to give an inch. I think they're really in it to win it. I think we're going to see a whole lot of aggression from them. Even if perhaps it might be slightly slower, I think we're going to see a whole lot of aggression from both of these guys. It's still going to be intense.
We want to hear from you as well, chat. Now, I know Danielle was rooting for the English Empire. My money's still on the Rus, and I really do think Jake has a shot here, especially from that last bout we saw. It seems like he has figured out a strategy for this third fight that might go in his favor. He was kind of weaving in and out, using those video game tactics we were talking about, choosing his spots, and I noticed that gave Jay a little bit of pause in the middle there.
He's such a smart fighter. He's such a smart fighter and so experienced. He's also a hot fighter. We can see that the squires are giving him a bit of water, not only to drink, but down the back as well to cool him down a little bit. He's wearing a lot of fur.
It looks like he's refreshed, and it looks like our fighters are ready for us. We're going to go back to Brian in the ring.
Here we go.
We have a weapon substitution for a weapon failure, bringing back William Marshall's longsword here. Fighter ready? Fighter ready. Fight!
Here they go again.
Now this is going to be scary for Jake because he's got so much range coming at him from Jay's sword. This is something.
Excellent deflections coming out of Jake, however. He is using these falcatas to not just defend himself, but to push him aside, get in there, and get the points.
I mean, Jake is being so aggressive here. We actually had to stop the fight because he's pushed Jay all the way back against the barrier, and that's something we can't have here for safety.
Ryan is resetting, looking with the speed at which those falcatas are coming up, stopping that bastard sword from landing. We see a couple of good blows from the offhand of Jay to the face of Jake. We are in the end of it now, down to the last 19 seconds.
We are even seeing knees here. It is going all out. It's going to be hard to call who's going to win this.
He is getting in there. Our fighters look tired. We are seeing just a desperate bid to get points here with those dual falcatas. Our Rus Empire warrior is putting in the work. He wants it, and it shows.
What an amazing showing. I don't think you could ask for better from two combatants than we saw here today. That was amazing.
That hug at the end really tells you everything you need to know about these competitors and this sport. That was a wonderful show. I cannot understand how our judges are going to deliberate and come out with a result on who is the victor. But we're going to find out when we come back. Welcome back to Simulation Mode, Age of Empires 4. We just saw the Rus Empire face off against the English Empire. It was a battle for the ages. They both were getting in all of the points towards the end there. It was a desperate bid at the end. Look at the ferocity with which our Rus Empire fighter, Jake, came forward, flurry of blows into the double falcata lock. It's impossible to score this one.
It was stunning. It was just an absolutely amazing fight. You can see how aggressive these guys were, and they really just left it all out there in the ring. I mean, this was an amazing fight for all of us, and not only them, but us.
Like our judges are actually done with their deliberations. I have to know, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat in anticipation. Brian, lay it out for us.
Wow. What a final bout. You both should be so proud. That was a lot of great technique. That knee was a little low, I think, but you know, we'll talk about that later. All right, guys, it was a really close call. There was so many flurry of blows, but in the end, the numbers do not lie. The winner and the first champion of Simulation Mode, sponsored by Age of Empires 4, is England. This is for you.
Ages, you did amazing out there. I can see the sweat, I can see the blood, I can see the tears. How do you feel in this moment?
Well, when I told chat that I'd let them choose the weapons, that was a bad idea. They gave you such fast weapons. Oh my God. It's been so much fun. I appreciate the honor. Thank you, guys.
Our very first champion here at Simulation Mode. I cannot believe my eyes. Seeing you adjust your strategy, bringing up those falcatas as a defense weapon. I have to ask, what was going through your head towards the end there when we saw that last flurry of blows?
I was just trying to survive the match at the end there. It was kind of really exhausting, just how light and dual wielding like that. We were just able to swing way more than we were normally can in about a minute.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, how do you feel the former knight, or the knight you formerly squired for, taking it, or like losing, and Jay taking it home. Do you have any feelings on all of this?
Technically, I used to squire for both of them, so I win out
So
of
it's a win-win for you. There was no losing for you in this situation. Oh my God, and thank you so much as well, Kelsey. You really laid it all out on the field.
Thank you so much, it was a pleasure.
And thank you to all of our combatants. You've given me so much respect for the sport, and I'm sure our chat as well. Chat, thank you so much for being here, for joining us. We saw your energy in the chat, in the featured chat. Thank you so much. And thank you, Brian, for being our Master at Arms.
It's my pleasure. I just want to thank all the squires. I want to thank Alex, my Master at Arms, Aria Hume for painting the shields, Tony Swan for making the weapons, James Brooks, Blake Gentry, and everyone who helped make this possible. Thank you guys so much.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Danielle, for providing your historical expertise. We couldn't have done it without you. And thank you so much to the Age of Empires 4 community, to the Twitch community that came through on the Crown channel. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to see you next time. Shall we give them one last huzzah?
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1. Huzzah!